Who should write the Declaration of Independence and why? Who should write the Declaration?
Hey, Sova! We're gonna hit the chessboard after this, yeah?
You lack the patience, friend. Learn that first,
By the way,
then we'll approach strategy.
between you and present tense there. So we're writing present tense as if you're there at the moment. You're trying to figure out. Your goal is the Declaration of Independence should be respected and supported by as many Americans as possible. You've got George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson. You can read the little bios there that I wrote and make a choice of who should write the Declaration of Independence and why.
'Cutting through.
Make sure you explain why. Some of you are just typing the name. Give a little explanation of why.
Thirty seconds left.
Willa, can you get us started here? You said John Adams. So can you explain John Adams, and then I want to hear from different people that have different thoughts.
I said John Adams just because of the information.
10 seconds left.
Slide, and it says that he was a good writer and successful.
Get out.
So, one enemy remaining.
And
Does it say about
Clutch.
that they were all good writers. I mean, it doesn't say that about George Washington, but it says that about Thomas Jefferson.
In
But
the
that was
wild,
just like
fire means
a
life.
plus. And then
You'll be our
it says
fire.
that he was associated with the American Revolution from its very beginning in Boston, and I thought that that was important because I think to be able to write something that's going to affect so many people so widely, you should have had to be there for everything.
Back soon.
all right. Several of you said George Washington. Lucas, can you unmute and share why did you say George Washington?
I said George Washington because he's widely respected.
Damon?
One enemy remaining.
I said Thomas Jefferson because
Out of
he's
charge.
obviously known for
Send 5
very
more.
excellent
We can do
writing.
this again.
He's respected, and he's already a
The
representative
luck
for
run
the colony with the largest population, which is Virginia.
Avery, what do you think?
Based on what we were given, I said Thomas Jefferson should write it because he's an excellent writer and has a respected reputation throughout much of the country.
What do you mean throughout much of the country?
Throughout the southern country.
I'll handle this.
Alright. So I'll tell you this. It was not George
I'm
Washington.
back.
George Washington did not recognize. Okay, so those of you that selected George Washington, who do you think? John Adams?
One enemy remaining.
Isaiah, you originally said Washington.
Hey.
Now that he's been eliminated, do you think it is
There
Adams
can
or
only
Jefferson?
be one
Isaiah.
Phoenix. I'm calling
I think it would be Thomas Jefferson because it also mentions explicitly how he was known for excellent writing ability and he
And several people make the point, Isaiah, that John Adams has been associated with the revolution from its very beginning. So wouldn't he have more credibility since he's been in support of the revolution since the beginning?
Yes.
Cutting through.
So you actually think it's not John Adams?
Decoy.
Yes.
Don't be so quick to drop your position. You have a thoughtful thing to say. Just because the teacher is questioning you doesn't mean you need to change your thoughts. What do other people think?
Distracted. Get out of my way.
One enemy remaining.
Portal closed. Out of charges.
They demand a fight. Who are we to
The
disappear?
reason why George Washington wasn't chosen to view, he wasn't known as a writer. That wasn't his technical skill. He also was in the middle of the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War started in 1775. So the summer of 1776, the Revolutionary War is happening. And George Washington was leading the rebel forces, or the Continental Army. And so it was not his place to step away from the battlefield and
Time to jump.
write this document. Come on, I want one or two more hands. John Adams or Thomas Jefferson, why? Stake your claim.
Planted. Embarrassing. Close.
Enemy remaining.
Charges. Set 5 more. Do this again.
Thank you,
Why are
Greg.
they determined to die?
I think Thomas Jefferson should have written it because he's saying it's expected across the southern colonies, and the southern colonies were like a problem child with the colonies. So I feel like we needed something to the south write it, so the south is on board too.
All right. Good discussion. I feel more awake as you do.
Don't let them get up.
But it's an interesting question, and I've taught history for a long time. This class is largely not about history. There's some history in a government class, of course. But I would say that one thing I look back to over and over and over again as a history teacher is the importance of context.
I'll handle
Figures
this.
were real human beings struggling with choices, just like leaders today are struggling with choices. Right? And when you look back on 50 years, you're not going to know all the details.
One enemy remaining.
History teachers are very focused on understanding context. At that moment, the United States, okay, what they were
5 more.
the United States
Do this again.
at the time, were at war.
Enemies close. Eyes up.
It was absolutely essential to survival. By the way, a lot of people thought they were going to lose. Even if people wanted an independent nation, this is the most powerful nation on earth. Right? Britain had a truly international empire on it, nearly every continent. And so it was
Jump.
really intimidating for the idea of colonists to be able to challenge the British military. And so the founders, as people call them, knew that it had to be supported across the colony. If you think about this question in today's world, okay,
I'll
if
handle
you wanted to convince a Republican to vote, let's just go back to the last time. If you wanted to convince a Republican to vote for Joe Biden,
tackle.
is it better to pick Joe Biden's lifelong
Hey.
friend? Who the
Send
Democrats
5 more. We can do this again.
convince that Republican?
Let's blow them
Or
up.
is it better to have a Republican who's been a Republican his whole entire life, or maybe somebody like John McCain's wife, Cindy McCain, endorsed Joe Biden? That was a big deal. If you know who John McCain is, would it be better to have a Republican endorse Joe Biden to try to convince other Republicans? The answer to that in present day should be pretty obvious. That somebody who identifies as a Republican is going to be more likely to believe somebody that shares a lot of their core beliefs, saying, look, let's vote for Joe Biden. In this situation, Boston and the Boston area were almost entirely supportive of the revolution. Boston is where the revolution
One enemy remaining.
took off. The Northeast was much more likely to support the revolution. The South was the least likely region to support the revolution for a variety of reasons. Number one was their economy was almost entirely structured on selling goods from agriculture to Britain. And so there was a lot of economic risk. They also weren't as caught up in the kind of revolutionary spirit. It's very rural, distributed population. You didn't have these big major cities where people were gathering together being angry about the British and fighting against the British, like Boston or New York. And so Thomas Jefferson was chosen for the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson was chosen, one, he was famous for his writing ability, yes, but really because of his stature in the South. The people who were most adamant about the independence really wanted to make a scale. If the independence was seen as like a northern thing.
One enemy remaining.
It had to be across the colony. So Thomas Jefferson was chosen.
My quiver is never
Are there any questions about that? Keep in mind how important context is. And some of the context you guys might have forgotten about the Declaration is that the Revolutionary War had already been started. A lot of people at the time were loyalists, particularly in the South, who wanted to stay in
Don't hold back.
whether it was for economic reasons, whether it was just because they didn't want to go out and die in a war they thought they were going to lose.
I'll handle this.
Suspicious of this new government. Or this Declaration of Independence. So, a year after the Declaration of Independence is
One enemy remaining.
13 days.
Send 5 more. We can do this again.
This is important for you guys to understand. The story is thinking about the context. When they declared independence, where was all the power in government? It was distributed across the 13 state governments. They had become state governments, but they had been colonial governments for 100 plus years. So you went from colonial governments to state governments. That's where power was. And so if you're trying to win a war, you're trying to keep everybody happy, what are you going to do? You're going to create a national government that gives as much power as possible to the states. And that was the Articles of Confederation. It was the first government of the United States. It's what's called a confederal system. Notice, the United States is a federal system. The confederal system is federal.
One enemy remaining.
Federalism says that the national government has
Someone's in defender school.
over the state government.
Mess
So if
with
there's
it.
a dispute, the national government can shut the state down. This is understand.
Last round in the half.
It basically says
Either spend all your money
states have the
or give it to me.
ultimate
Good
authority.
cause either way. Gun
They're
here.
tied together loosely to a nation. States
Reloading.
have the authority. That is not going to work. For the reasons you might imagine. Imagine if in your household, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 brothers and sisters,
Gun here.
if all of a sudden the power of the house
Hit them when they're not looking.
and kids have the ultimate authority in the house.
Handle
If a parent
this.
and a kid were arguing, the kid could say, you know what, Mom, you're going to your room and you're not going anywhere this weekend. So, I'm taking away your phone. Did that, like you said, it sounds crazy.
One enemy remaining. Flawless.
Go!
Take out the trash.
Really were used to governing
Switching
themselves.
sides.
The idea of a nation didn't really exist yet. It's also that back then, if you lived in Georgia, you had to spend a week on a carriage, maybe longer, weeks on a carriage to get to the U.S. Capitol. If you, especially when they weren't sure if it was going to be Philadelphia or New York. You were so far away from it. There was a real sense of why would you give a lot of power to something that's so far away? However, the country actually almost collapses in this time. So in the 1780s, after winning the Revolutionary War, it's embarrassing. The country is like
take.
the U.S. Constitution.
Get out of my way.
Spike down, attacker spawn. One enemy remaining. Ace.
So the first 10 amendments that you
Send 5 more. We can do this again.
I'm not sure that you would have had
Match
that
point.
sequence before.
Let's clean up.
That
We're
story,
done here.
those 4 documents, you need to go ahead and open up now. So you should try to share your screen so that you have this document open. Not share your screen, sorry, I said the wrong thing. Have like a split screen up so that you can be typing and be seeing.
Try not to die.
This class
Handle
is at 75 instead of 90-minute period in this like simultaneous task virtual environment. So I got some things that
I'm back.
We're not going to
Spike down, attacker spawn. One enemy remaining. Ace. Defenders win.
Send 5 more. We can do this again.